I just can't stand for very long. First of all, like you said, my name is D. Denver Pickard. And that's my chosen name. And I'm telling this beginning of the story because of one particular person in this audience. I was born Donnie Pickard many, many years ago. And when I went to film school, I was told that Donnie Pickard was never going to make it because of the sound of my name sort of sounded like Gomer Pyle. So I said, well, I'm not changing my name. They said, well, what is your middle name? I said, Denver. And they went, oh, come on, that's a great name. It's different. People will remember it, but it's not weird. So I said, okay. And I said, how about Denver Pickard? Because it lifts at the end. So at that moment, I became Denver Pickard. I tried to go back to Denver Pickard to Donnie Pickard when I moved back here, but it just didn't suit me. People say I put on layers, and they're absolutely right. First of all, I would like to, oh my lights. I'm 73 years, well actually I'm 72 years old. When I turned 60, I went ahead and jumped over to the next year so I wouldn't be shocked and depressed. So I'm actually 72, but I tell everybody I'm 73. I want to thank Macon Pride for inviting me to be the token representative of all the old queers in Macon. And there's a lot of us, because we were baby boomers. And for those of you who don't know what a baby boomer is, when all the servicemen returned from the war, and that's World War II, not one, there was a boom in the population. They can't understand why, but there was a boom in the population. And so there's many, many, many of us. And some of us lived in lofty mansions on College Street or in a trailer out on 247. But there's a lot of us. We're here, we're queer, shut up and get over it. So,
that's right.
I used to do this, I would just get up and talk, but now that I'm old, I forget things, so I have to write them down. I'd like to talk a little bit about the history of Macon, the queer history of Macon. The first bar I remember is Ann's TikTok, which was on Broadway, which is now Martin Luther King. And that is where Little Richard appeared, early in his career. In fact, I met with him in Nashville a year before he died. And when I sat down next to him, I realized that this old man was sitting there in broad daylight in this fancy hotel in full face. It wasn't full drag, but it was full face. And it made me smile. So it made me happy. So I was writing, which I'm still doing, I'm working on a book about Angela Lyles, who lived here in Macon. I wrote a play about it, now I'm turning it into a book. That's another story.
Best play I've ever seen, and I'm not even joking. I swear to you.
I'm sorry?
That is hands down the best play I've seen. Hands down.
Have y'all met my sister?
Swear to you. I'm calling that out.
Oh, well, thank you, thank you. We did it for 3 years in a row, just standing room only. I'm not going to talk about it. So there was Ann's TikTok, which is right around the corner, which is now Ann's TikTok. And it was one of the first openly gay bars with drag performers, and you can go online and find pictures of it back in the 50s and 60s. You can even find pictures of Little Richard there. It's fascinating. And then by the time I came along, we had a bar called the We Three. And the We Three was like heaven to me, because I had never been part of a gay family before. And they embraced me, and they became part of my family, the family that we're here to honor tonight. And then down the street opened a place called the Lamppost. And because it was right down the street, you could do this thing called bar hopping. So you go to the We3 for a while, and then you go down to the Lamppost and back and forth. And one little story about that bar, the owner of that bar and his partner, who was the headliner drag queen, decided they needed some cash, so they tried to burrow through the alley underground to get to the trust company bank until it fell in the middle of the night and they got caught. That's another story. And then we had a bar out on 247. I don't think anyone here could verify this. I think the name of it was the Redwood, but since I have age spots older than most of you, I don't think I'm going to ask for verification of that, but I think it was called Redwood. It was another place you could bar hop. So you could go to the We3, and you go to the Landmark, and then get your car and go out 247, and then come back into town. Because you wanted to be at We3 at closing time, because that's where the pretty people were. In case you got lucky. Another person a person I would like to talk to in reference to the history, the gay history of Macon, is Tangerine Summers. We lost Tangerine, everybody. We lost Tangerine not long ago, and I don't want to. It was a very sad occasion, but I want to tell you some dirt on Tangerine. She was appearing at the time at the Lamppost. And she was doing this number that had a long dance break. And in the back there was a heckler, a drunk young man who was just heckling the whole thing. Everybody tried to get him to be quiet, and he just wouldn't. And Tangerine was trying to ignore him and go on with her wonderful act. And when it got to the dance break, Tangerine came off that stage, went back, snatched him up, took him out on the park on the sidewalk, beat the shit out of him, and got back on stage without missing one word of the song. She was incredible. Of course, if you came in and you went up to the bar and you go, "Where's Tangerine?" The bartender would look over his glasses and go, "She's in the Bahamas." That meant she was in the pokey for shoplifting lipstick someplace. But Tangerine is part of the history of my gay life. One of the first that I saw actually perform in drag. Well, I was raised Southern Baptist, and a little bitty, well, I won't even call it a town.
You're not, or you should finish this part of your story.
She said she was going to walk up if I was getting too long-winded. Watch her to make sure she doesn't come this way. So anyway, I was raised in a small town, a little hamlet called Henderson. It's Henderson Village. You may have heard of it. And when you're raised in a small southern town that is very Baptist-oriented, it is hard to discover that you're gay. And I thought it was me and two guys in Oklahoma. I didn't think it was any big thing, but it was rather hard. I had a friend, his name was David Horton, and I met David in the 4th grade. I was walking down the hall of Perry Elementary School, and from the auditorium I heard a song and being played. And I walked in, and there was this little fat, red-headed boy up on stage, a little like he was doing a dance routine. And I thought, what's he doing? So I went over and asked him. And he told me that he was going to be part of the talent show that weekend. I said, what are you going to do? And he said, I'm going to lip sync. I never heard that. Lip sync? What does that mean? I'm going to synchronize my voice to the song. And the song he was going to do was Chantilly Lace. I don't know if any of you, Chantilly Lace, had a pretty face, had a ponytail. Anyway. And so that Friday at the program that I attended, he walked on stage and he looked like a combination of Liberace and a flamenco dancer, and with sequins and rhinestones, and I realized he wasn't being the big bopper who recorded this. He was being Chantilly Lace. If I were to drag, that's what my name's going to be. But as time passed, and we graduated from school, and I went into the Navy and then the Marines, and we went to, well, first we went to college. I went to Georgia Southern. He went to Young Harris, and he moved to Atlanta. She's creeping up on me, actually. So anyway, to make a long story short, David was living in Atlanta, and I flew into Atlanta to meet with him and spend the weekend with him. And he said, "What do you want to do this weekend?" And I was like, "This is your town." And he said, "Well, I need to tell you something." I went, and it took him about an hour to get to the word gay. I knew he was gay, and it was a perfect opportunity for me to say, "Me too," but I didn't. I was just paralyzed with fear. So that night, he asked me. I said, "Well, what are you going to do if I weren't here?" And he said he would go to the Miss Gay Atlanta pageant. So I said, "Well, let's go there." So we walked in. There was a table reserved for 12, and they were already seated there, 10 of them. And he had told everyone he was bringing his straight friend Donnie to this gay bar. They all looked at me, and I could tell from their faces they were going, "Girl, who do you think you're talking to?" So later on, this guy came up and asked me to dance, and I said, "Can you wait just a minute?" I said, "David, come with me." And we went to the bathroom. I said, "It took you an hour to get to this point. I don't have an hour. I'm just as gay as you are, or have ever been, and I want that man. Do not mess this up." And those 12 people, or 10 people, became my family. They opened up, and they helped me through the process. And it's very important to have a family. And if you don't have one, go get yourself one, because you're going to need it. Thank you.
Round of applause for everybody. Give them another round of applause.